Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. By golly, today we're going to be talking about your neighbors and my neighbors, and that's a subject that everybody needs to explore into, because I know that if you're like me, you got great neighbors, and I live out here in the country on a dead-end road, and most of my neighbors are great, and I say most of them. I've got one neighbor that he's not a bad neighbor. He's just a neighbor that don't want nothing to do with nobody out here. And he stays alone by himself with his family, and that's fine. We respect that and give him his room. He actually lives next door or across the field from my fence, which that's fine if he wants to be like that. You know, he ain't asking nobody for nothing, and we ain't asking nothing from him. Just live in peace and let live. But I hope everybody's got good neighbors. But let me tell you a funny story that happened back earlier in the year. We got some folks that moved in down the road from us, and they had teenager kids that was like 15 and 16. I know one of them was 16 because he had a old truck that was all jacked up high and loud and drove it. But down at the dead-end road, there's a creek that goes under the road, a pretty good sized creek, and me and my friend, my other neighbor that lives on the opposite side, he owns 70-acre farm over there, and I got 25 here, and we work together. In fact, we've been cleaning trees up around our fence all the time whenever we was doing that, and we noticed them kids down there, and they was shooting at something, and we went down there to see what they was killing, thought maybe they was getting a water moccasin or a rattlesnake or something like that. Well, lo and behold, we got down there and they had shot and killed this giant, huge alligator turtle. Well, that alligator turtle wasn't bothering nobody. And matter of fact, here in Georgia, they're protected species. And so my friend, he's a little bit older than me, and he took the phone away from the kids, and he said here, and handed it back to him, he said, I want you to call one of your parents, your mom or your daddy, and I'm going to explain to them what you just done. And so the boy, he dialed his phone, and his mama answered, of course, and then he gave the phone back to my other neighbor, which I'm not going to mention his name, but he just said, ma'am, I just want to let you know what your kids are doing today. He said, they down here, and they done killed a giant alligator turtle, which is on the Georgia Protected Species list, he said, and I just wanted to let you know so you could discipline them. And she started cussing that man and saying, and you know what, how'd you get my child's phone, and who is this? Well, my neighbor handed the kid back the phone. He said, here, you explain this to your mama. Well, the kid got on there and said, Mama, I shot a turtle that I shouldn't have shot, and the man made me call you. And she said, well, you stay right there. I'll be there in 2 minutes. And in 2 minutes, she was. She come flying down there 100 miles an hour in a SUV, jumped out, and just went yelling at me about making her child call, getting his phone, and she got so mad. She attacked him, and I had to pull them apart, and then, of all things, she runs over there and she called 911 and called the sheriff's department. Well, we wasn't going to get them involved. Well, the sheriff's department come flying out here, 2 cars, and deputies, and there's the boys. Mama done took the guns away from them and put them in her car and tried to hide the guns, and there's a dead turtle. Well, we went over there and we had our cameras on our phone. We started taking pictures of it, and we did. Got some real good pictures of it. The thing was huge. I'm talking about a good 200-pounder, I bet, or 140 pounds. But you know alligator turtles, they get big down here in Georgia. Anyway, poor thing was all stretched out there with his neck hanging out that long and his tongue stuck out, and he was dead. They done shot him full of holes with a .22 rifle or AR-15 or something. But anyway, when the sheriff's department did arrive, they asked what was going on with that woman. Said, I'm the one that called. So, of course, they went over there and talked to her first. And she told them that we had come down there and held her kids hostage and took the phone away from it. And so they come over there and question us about the hostage situation. Well, I took this same camera that y'all looking at now, and I had it on a little tripod stand I rode down there in a golf cart. That's how close it is. It's just 100 acres across or 70 acres across the field down there. So I had that whole video on film, and that sheriff deputy was telling me about how he was getting charged with I said, hold on a minute there, fella. I said, ain't video enough proof? And he said, yeah, video will stand up in court. I said, well, I got everything from the time I drove up here, everything that was said and everything that was done on this video camera right here. And I said, as a matter of fact, it's still recording our conversation as we talk now. And he said, great. Well, he went back and told the woman, he said, look, that man, the time he drove up, he's got everything on video now. You sticking to this story. Well, she started changing the story immediately. And so another sheriff arrived, and it was a lady deputy. And while they was talking to this woman and saying, well, we're going to let these people go because they hadn't broken no laws, but he said they might be the ones wanting to press charges. Well, about that time, that woman, she got so mad she attacked my neighbor physically and jumped on him and started shaking him and threatening to hit him. Well, the sheriff's deputy lady, she grabbed that woman and put her in the back of the car and told her, said, you gonna calm down. Well, by then the husband to the lady that owned the kids, he showed up and he started going at it, wanting to fight. And the bad thing is, he's a or where we at, right here. But anyway, they calmed him down right quick, said, look, we're going to put you in the back of the car. You said that's your wife. We'll put both of y'all in the hall, both of y'all to jail. And then they come over there and talked to us, and we told him, look at him. We said, not only did they kill this poor old turtle, and he said, we wasn't going to report it. We were just going to let their family discipline them, but evidently they don't know how. So, by golly, I said, why don't we settle this the easy way? Let's call the game warden, and they can deal with it. And the deputy agreed. He said, you know, that's a good idea. And he called the game warden, and the game warden said, well, I'm way over here, about 4 counties away. And he said, I won't be there till just about dark. And we agreed, well, whatever, you come on down. Well, that evening, just about dark, the game warden went down there, and I happened to see him and called my neighbor, and I got in my pickup and drove down there to my neighbor, and then he had one of these here Gators, John Deere Gators with lights on it. My golf cart don't got lights, so I don't drive it at night, but we rode down there, and the game warden had his light. Well, guess what? That turtle disappeared within that 4 or 5 hour frame. He was gone, so them kids or their parents or somebody come back and got that turtle because they knew that I done told the sheriff. I said, that's a federally protected species. So I showed the game warden the pictures on my phone and on the camera that I did of it, and he said, well, he said, I don't know if, he said, we probably not going to push it, but he said, if a turtle would have been here and I could have got him as evidence and hold him, he said, I would have. But he said, I can't prove when these pictures were took, whether they was took before or after the kids arrived. And well, anyway, nobody pressed charges, which I was glad. But here's the moral of the story. This is where it gets good. Y'all stay with me. About 2 months later, I was out there in the field. You know, I got a couple of backhoes, track hoes, and tractors. Well, that neighbor that was so angry with me, he come up in his golf cart. Everybody out here got a golf cart. We live on a farm across the road from a subdivision, but they moved from town, and they trying to change town the country back into town sometimes, I think. But they ain't gonna do it because they've even asked us to get rid of our cows and all that, but we didn't do it. But anyway, that man had to come up here and he had to ask me, and the neighbor that was his wife attacked happened to be with me. We were happened to be clearing bush with the backhoes and the track hose and the tractor and put them in a burn pit that day. And he come up on his golf cart and he got this big old pretty red dog, and he said, I hate to say this, neighbor, but my big old pretty red dog died. And he said, I went out back of my house, which he don't own a farm, he owns a little lot, half-acre lot. And he said, I tried in 5 places to dig a hole, and this was back in the summer when the ground was hard as a brick. And he said, I can't even dig but maybe an inch down. And he said, I know you got that backhoe. He said, can you come up there and dig a hole in my backyard for me to bury the dog? And I said, no, I can't, because I said, you in that subdivision and they got power lines and water lines and AT&T telephone and media cable. All that's run under your place underground somewhere. And I said, the only way we can do it is we'll have to call that 411 number that comes out and they scan the ground and mark the cables and the gas and water pipes. I said, but I'll do you a favor. I'll go down here in back of my woods in my field where I know there ain't nothing. I'll dig a 6-foot hole. You go get the dog. I said, you bring that dog, I want him wrapped up in a beautiful blanket. We buried the dog down there for him, and he thanked me, and actually it was the next day, that guy, the neighbor, he pulled up, and he brought us 2 T-bone steaks and a baked potato. And he said, this is what I'm going to give y'all for helping. I said, well, you didn't know us nothing. He said, no, but I want to do something for you. And he said, and I do want to deeply apologize for all of our problems about that daggum turtle. He said, I did get on my boy's butt. I grounded him for a week. And he said, but it wasn't all his doing. It was the neighbor's kids, which they've already got sent off to jail for deer shining and shooting power lines down and all that out here. So it works out good, but the moral of the story is try as hard as you can to stay on your neighbor's good side. You never know when you're going to need them. I've got neighbors out here that visit me every day. So stay with them. If they don't want to cooperate, overlook it, they'll come around later when they need you. That's probably the best thing to do. If they want to leave you alone and they want you to leave them alone, just leave them alone. Now, if they rowdy, I got one neighbor over here that traps my cats. It's funny. He hires a city, we got a sheriff here in the county that's animal control sheriff, and he goes out and sets these big traps and catches cats and stray dogs. Well, my cats ain't stray, but yeah, they go across in his yard. But I talked to that guy, and my neighbor over there, he traps my cat sometime and calls the county, and that guy comes pick them up. And then when he picks them up, he got my phone number, and he calls me, and he just brings them back to me and lets them go back over here. And no harm done. I don't say a word to my neighbor that's trapping them. He ain't hurt them, he just catches them and lets them haul them off. That guy liable to haul him around a few hours, and then he'll bring him back to me and say, well, here your cat's got bailed out of jail, so and he'll let him go. Because they know if they put a cat in our county pound that they nobody gonna come claim it. Especially these barn cats, they kind of wild to start with, even towards me. I can feed them. I can't really pet them. I don't want them to go over there, but they ramble, you know, cats, especially what they're doing. He got a barn out there that's got rats in it, and that's what they're doing. They ought to be paying me for rat and snake control, because I don't have no problem with rats and snakes at my place, because I got 15 cats. So, anyway, all I wanted to say and stress, y'all be kind to your neighbor, and I promise your neighbor will be kind to you. And remember, good deed done is a good deed that's going to return back to you sooner or later. So, don't stress out over whatever your neighbors are doing. If they're doing wrong, just leave them alone. If it ain't illegal, don't get the law involved. You know, just leave them alone. And they'll go away and quit bothering you, and you quit bothering them. But my neighbors, we cook. We get out and grill together, cook together. I go over to their house for about every Thanksgiving and Christmas. They cook a big meal, and we all throw in. I cook stuff, cornbread or green beans or something like that, and take over there, and we eat with their family and mine. So we have a good time. But be sure to treat your neighbors good, and your neighbors should treat you good, and I don't care what color they are. We got some black neighbors out here. The fact is, one of those black ladies stopped and talked to me the other day because I was out there by the mailbox. It was 20 degrees, and I had on an old coat that I've had for 57 years or longer, and it's all ragged out, and she stopped and asked. She said, "Mister," she said, "it's cold out here. Do you need a better coat to wear?" I said, "No, ma'am, I got new coats in the house." She said, "Well, I got a coat I'll give you if you need one." I said, "No, ma'am, I don't need a coat." I said, "I sure do thank you for the suggestion, but," I said, "this is just an old work coat that I've had for many years, and it's comfortable. And it's an army coat for what it is, and it's double thick, and it's actually the warmest coat I got." But anyway, y'all think about it and have a great day. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and go ahead and give me a thumbs up and a like, and leave a comment below if you got good or bad neighbors. I want to hear about it. And tell me what your situation is. You like me and live way out in the country, and then a neighborhood come in, or you live in town. I have lived in town. The houses be about wide enough to drive a pickup truck in between, but boy, I had great neighbors uptown also. And I still go by and see them every now and then. All right? Y'all have a great week.